Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Tian Lu with you on this Friday, March the 6th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, China expects its GDP to grow by over 6 trillion yuan this year as lawmakers gather in Beijing to review key priorities for the year ahead. Foreign observers at the two sessions speak highly of China's achievements over the past 5 years. And China calls for de-escalating tensions in the Middle East while stepping up efforts to assist stranded Chinese nationals in the region. In business, China's AI Plus plan aims to integrate artificial intelligence into all economic and social sectors by 2035. In sports, the Milano Cortina Winter Paralympics set to open in Italy. In culture and entertainment, Generation Z in China reinventing its intangible cultural heritage. Now checking today's top stories. The head of China's top economic regulator says the country's GDP is expected to grow by over 6 trillion yuan, or nearly $870 billion this year. National Development and Reform Commission head Zheng Shanjie made the remarks on the sidelines of the fourth session of the 14th National People's Congress. He said such an economic expansion will provide support for employment, people's well-being, and risk prevention. China has set its economic growth target at 4.5% to 5% for the year. Zheng said the country has the foundation to support its development.
And this time we have set a range target. It is set by the CPC Central Committee and the State Council based on systemic assessment, scientific validation, and balanced consideration, and also with prudence. I should say that the target is underpinned by a solid foundation, which can be reflected in at least 3 aspects. That is aggregate volume, innovation capability, and risk resilience.
He also said China's artificial intelligence industries will be valued at over 10 trillion yuan by the end of 2030. Finance Minister Lan Fuan said the country's fiscal fund allocation is expected to reach record highs. Commerce Minister Wang Wentao said the scale of China's consumer market topped the world during the 14th five-year plan period that ended last year. He added that China will promote imports of high-quality consumer services, make good use of visa-free and other policies, and expand travel service exports. With more, Zhang Tao spoke to Wang Yaojing, an assistant professor of economics at Peking University.
Commerce Minister Wang Wentao said the scale of China's consumer market topped the world during the 14th five-year plan period. What could be the reasons behind?
Well, there are structural reasons as well as policy factors. So first, China has more than 1.4 billion people, and rising income has continued to enlarge the middle income group. And as disposable income grows and urbanization deepens, consumption patterns shift from basic goods towards services, healthcare, tourism, digital products. And this structural upgrade is the strongest driving factor in China's total market size. And also China has built one of the world's most advanced e-commerce ecosystem, supported by mobile payments, large online retail platforms, and highly efficient delivery networks, and reducing transaction costs and dramatically increasing accessibility and an overall retail activity. Policy-wise, during the 14th five-year plan, policymakers emphasized a dual circulation strategy where domestic demand plays a leading role in growth. So policies such as consumption vouchers, trade-in programs for automobiles and home appliances, and then also support for service consumption helped stimulate spending overall. So looking ahead, the continued expansion of consumption in lower-tier cities and rural areas will turn these previously underdeveloped markets into important drivers of national consumption growth in the future.
This year, China is planning to put more emphasis on thriving in-person consumption in brick-and-mortar stores. What do you think could be the challenges, especially amid the popularity of online purchasing?
Well, from the supply side, operational costs for offline retailers remain relatively high. So we have rent, labor, and inventory costs that can place this pressure on this brick and mortar stores, and particularly in major urban areas. And from the demand side, limited leisure time and relatively short paid leaves can indeed be a structural constraint for the consumers. And having said that, given that the China's policy framework increasingly emphasize domestic demand as the main engine of growth, and the fact that offline consumption is closely linked to employment, you see a great deal of potential in offline consumption, especially in the service sector. And then we see policies encouraging smart retail, and we're seeing retail evolving from simply a place to buy goods into a place that offers experiences, services, and community interaction. And we see service supply and quality improving, and also policy discussion emphasizing improving the vacation system and expanding leisure time as part of the broader strategy to boost consumption. And it's literally written in the government report given by the minister yesterday. So in short, the future of in-person consumption lies not in competing with e-commerce on prices, but in leveraging the service economy to create richer, more experience-driven consumption scenarios.
That was Wang Yaojing at Peking University. China's fast-growing silver economy is redefining what life in later years can look like. Older adults across the country are embracing fashion, culture, AI, and even social media influencing, seeking meaningful experiences, self-expression, and social connection. Wang Zihang takes a look at the booming multi-trillion yuan market, the rise of senior online creators, and the growing efforts to protect older people from fraud.
Backstage at a venue in Guangzhou, a group of elderly women in elegant dresses rehearse a song ahead of their performance. Some touch up their makeup, smooth out their cheongsams, and chat excitedly. The whole hall is full of energy and anticipation. These monthly gatherings are extremely popular. Organizer Wu Yao says spots fill up quickly every time.
We run book clubs, dance classes, fitness sessions, and short outings. Now we're also teaching seniors how to use AI tools. Each month brings something new, and the range of activities is really rich.
Wu has watched the senior consumer market expand rapidly since she entered the sector in 2019. She says today's older generation wants far more than basic services.
When they join our AI classes, they don't just want to learn the tools. They want to show what they've learned, maybe by taking part in a fashion show. During trips, we invite them to perform short plays, then film videos and take photos. We combine different elements into one complete experience, and they really love this crossover style.
Her club now has nearly 500 annual members across the country, plus more than 3,000 people who join individual events. Wu says older consumers deeply value meaningful experiences and active participation. They are willing to spend not just on products, but on social connections and self-expression. China's silver economy, which refers to products and services designed for older adults, is increasingly focused on health, emotional well-being, and personal growth. At the same time, many seniors are embracing the digital age. Some are learning live streaming and becoming online influencers, sharing fashion advice and daily life. Song Jun runs an agency that helps older women build online careers. Her clients have gained over 1 million followers across different platforms.
Our grandma influencers recommend products and try new things. This spring, we're focusing on fashion and beauty. They share styling and makeup tips, and even put on traditional Chinese cheongsam runway shows. Many other seniors follow their lead and end up buying the same products.
China's silver economy has already surpassed 8 trillion yuan, roughly $1.1 trillion. by 2035 is expected to exceed 30 trillion yuan. Nearly 600,000 organizations across the country now serve older adults. But as the market booms, challenges have emerged. Cases of fraud targeting seniors have sparked growing public concern. NPC Deputy Zhang Haijun, who has long worked on elder care and social services, says regulations must keep up with development.
Many industries are now entering the senior market and offering all kinds of services. The government needs to properly guide and regulate this growth. As people grow older and leave the workplace, their ability to judge certain marketing or investment offers may weaken, making them more vulnerable to scams. The government is aware of this problem and is stepping up efforts to prevent it.
Banks, online platforms and community groups have been working together to teach seniors how to spend safely, recognize scams and avoid online fraud. Posters in communities warn seniors about common scams and encourage them to use apps that monitor suspicious calls and online activity. With these measures in place, China aims to let its silver economy thrive while keeping older consumers safe, confident and actively engaged in life. For the Beijing Hour, this is Wang Zihang.
Coming up, foreign observers at the two sessions speak highly of China's achievements over the past 5 years.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
That's 12 minutes past the hour. Foreign diplomats in China and UN officials at the two sessions have spoken highly of China's achievements over the past 5 years. Gabonese Ambassador Baudelaire Don Eller is one of them.
I find the achievements very impressive. First of all, the 14th five-year plan has been successful in all fields. Meanwhile, poverty reduction efforts have been sustained, and the 15th five-year plan aims to achieve moderate prosperity, which is remarkable. The developments in artificial intelligence, cutting-edge technology, and electric vehicles are also impressive.
Burkina Faso Ambassador Daouda Baiti hopes that China's development plan will yield positive impacts on the global economy.
I believe the achievements already announced are very commendable, and all that has been accomplished deserves recognition. For 2026, I am confident that if this growth target is achieved, it will have a significant impact on the global economy. Since China and Africa have decided to forge a shared future, the impact on Africa's development will also be very substantial.
Sophie Muller is the UN High Commissioner for Refugees representative in China. She hopes that China's development blueprint will also help ensure world stability.
The 15th five-year plan covers both economic and social areas, which are very encouraging. It also confirms openness in international relations, notably with the mention of the Global Governance Initiative. We hope this will strengthen support for the United Nations agencies, not only for UNHCR, which is currently facing a difficult financial situation, but also in response to an international context marked by complex insecurity, large population displacements, and growing needs for international protection.
That was Sophie Muller, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees representative in China. International media outlets covering the two sessions have focused on China's high-quality opening up policies and innovations in AI. Russia's Radio Metro says the renewed commitment to opening wider signals China's continued support for globalization with deeper attention to reliability and safety. The Pakistan Observer says China's economic targets and policies on digitalization and AI will set the tone for the world's economies. Capital News of Kenya says China continued prioritization of high-quality development, technological innovation, and domestic consumption sends a reassuring message to global markets. Editor-in-Chief Serik Kozumbayev of Kazakhstan's Delovoy newspaper says the decisions made at the two sessions impact the whole world.
For countries neighboring China in Central Asia and Eurasia, including Kazakhstan, the decisions passed by the two sessions are of great significance, as China is one of our key partners. I am deeply aware of China's ability to contribute surprises and solutions to the world. Chinese innovation is reaching the world. In this regard, we can establish joint ventures and carry out cooperative projects.
Meantime, Kyrgyzstan's Carbon News Agency says the two sessions will significantly impact the future economic direction of China's neighbors. Journalists from across the globe, including many from Africa, have gathered in Beijing to examine the global implications of China's policy agenda. Satyen Bruce is a producer with the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation. He highlighted how China's world-leading advancements in technology present a tremendous opportunity to help accelerate Africa's growth.
The plans that China has, it's not only for within China, but from also outside China. And we know that China and Africa have been collaborating over the last 70 years with diplomatic ties. China has a huge advance on the rest of the world, and especially compared to Africa. Today, in the world of technology, the areas where I think China could help us the most is where China has become the number one in terms of technology, in terms of solar energy, green energy, in terms of electric cars, in terms of computing power, AI. So this is what is going to dominate the world in the coming years. So if we think about that, I would love to see China help us more in terms of technology, because I think the education-wise, Africa has grown up now. Most of the Africans have a good level of education. So now what we need is to get a little more help in a few complex areas where we don't have the R&D, the research and development facilities. So in this, China could help us to grow a little bit faster, I would say.
Meanwhile, Fortune Aban, editor-in-chief of the news agency of Nigeria, emphasized that Africa can draw from China's own development experience to pair technological advancement with education to drive lasting results.
Just to chip in on what they're saying, if you check properly, one strength Africa has that is unharnessed is that of population strength, especially with the young generation. And I know China has been doing a lot in terms of technological advancement and people-to-people relations. But something is really missing. It's the knowledge base sharing. You know, when you have a particular chunk of population not really matching up over time to maintain policy trust of the government, it will create a lacuna, it will create a big gap that no matter the movement, no matter the level of the revolution for change, for growth, you'll not be getting the results that you so desire. Yeah. So I think there should be a kind of a nosedive into the education aspect, technology, artificial intelligence, all under the edges of education. Whatever it is doing, you know, it should be able to inculcate this knowledge, this culture, this value in the process. So by the time such is integrated into the fabrics of people's thinking, value system, behavior, you discover that it becomes a walkover for the country to achieve, for the continent to achieve. So I am looking forward to an integration in the cooperation where China can improve its investment to helping African countries, you know, in this regard to be a par.
That's Nigerian journalist Fortune Aban on the lessons and practices that Africa could adapt from China to support its own development priorities. Coming up, China calls for de-escalating tensions in the Middle East while stepping up efforts to assist stranded Chinese nationals in the region.
From epic tales of mystery and magic to accounts of battle and empire, from the verses of ancient poets to the masterpieces of our times, A Light on Literature brings to life China's literary heritage and a look at the world in a new light.
Now it's 19 minutes past the hour. China is calling for de-escalation in the Middle East amid rising regional tensions. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning says dialogue is needed.
China opposes U.S. and Israeli military strikes on Iran in violation of international law and supports Iran in safeguarding its sovereignty, security, territorial integrity, and national dignity, as well as its legitimate rights and interests. China has always called for resolving disputes through political and diplomatic means. We urge an immediate halt to military action to prevent the conflict from spreading and escalating further.
The spokesperson also said maintaining the security and stability of the Strait of Hormuz is in the common interest of the international community. China will send its special envoy for Middle East affairs to the region to mediate. Meantime, China says it has placed great importance on assisting passengers stranded in the Middle East, with efforts focused on providing immediate support. Spokesperson Mao Ning stated that the ministry quickly activated its emergency response and held urgent consultations with the Civil Aviation Administration and other relevant authorities to facilitate the resumption of flights while ensuring safety. Chinese airlines have resumed some services to the Middle East following safety assessments. Hainan Airlines carried out 2 round-trip flights between Haikou and Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, on Monday and Wednesday. Air China planned to operate 1 round-trip flight per day between Beijing Capital International Airport and Riyadh from Thursday to Saturday, and another one per day between the airport and Dubai from Friday to Sunday. China Southern Airlines also planned to operate 1 round-trip flight between Guangzhou and Riyadh on Friday. U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington wants to join Iran in deciding who will be its next leader. The U.S. military attacks on Iran have proven to be a major political gamble for Trump. Opinion polls show little public support among Americans. Congress remains divided, with the House narrowly rejecting a war powers resolution that would halt the offensive. The Senate rejected the same resolution a day earlier. Owen Fairclough reports from Washington, D.C.
The question of who replaces Iran's assassinated supreme leader Ali Khamenei is one of the critical questions as this conflict escalates across the Middle East. And yet US President Donald Trump says he doesn't want Khamenei's 56-year-old son, Mojtaba Khamenei, while also recognizing that he is one of the likely candidates to replace his father potentially. Trump's comments to Reuters are significant because it suggests that Washington possibly doesn't want full regime change, in direct contrast to Israel, which has said it does want a full regime change in Iran.
With respect to our operation in the country of Iran, they're tough and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late. And we want to fight now more than they do.
Trump's comments are also significant because he drew a comparison with Venezuela. Delcy Rodriguez, the interim president, had the backing of Washington after former President Nicolas Maduro was forcibly seized by U.S. forces. All of these questions are swirling around as the U.S. announced its embassy in Kuwait has shut. Consulates and U.S. embassies around the Middle East have been affected to a greater or lesser degree, but the Kuwaiti embassy has shut down operations completely. This, as some 20,000 U.S. citizens have now left the Middle East region, according to the U.S. State Department. There have been complaints from some U.S. citizens stuck in the region that the State Department hasn't done enough. But the White House has pushed back on this, saying the State Department and the White House warned people about the volatility in the region. Here's more from the U.S. State Department.
One of the things that we're doing, like I mentioned, is moving from areas where airspace is closed to where it's not closed, and then facilitating commercial options where available. So there are commercial options open to people.
And on Thursday, the State Department said it's organizing more charter flights to get U.S. citizens out of the Middle East.
That was Owen Fairclough reporting. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz says the country took the decision to kill the supreme leader of Iran in November and was planning to carry out the operation around 6 months later. Ali Khamenei died in the first hours of the U.S.-Israeli airstrikes on Iran last weekend. Katz said they shared the plan with the U.S. in January. Israeli forces have warned residents of the southern Beirut district of Dahiyya to evacuate. Explosions have been seen across southern Beirut's skyline since Thursday. An Israeli minister has threatened that the area would soon resemble parts of Gaza. The Lebanese government says over 100 people have been killed and more than 83,000 people displaced by Israeli strikes since Monday. Hezbollah has in turn warned Israeli residents to evacuate areas within 5 kilometers of the border with Lebanon. Israel says it will not evacuate its border towns and has dispatched more soldiers into Lebanon as a defensive measure. Adel Marouki reports from Beirut.
The south of Lebanon territories have become all a red zone according to Israel after the IDF announced an immediate clearing to all neighborhoods, all districts south of Lebanon, south of the Litani River. This is almost the entire southern territories. And that means that when it strikes, Israel is not going to give any warning. This has become officially a battle zone, and Israel will be firing or striking at will. Unlike what's happening here in the capital, Beirut, where Israel usually gives a warning when it targets a specific building to demolish it or to attack it. It gives a warning. The IDF also just announced that it wants the entire southern district of Beirut to be cleared out. It announced that 4 neighborhoods in the southern district, everyone there to leave immediately, saying that no one will be safe in the southern district. Now, Beirut's southern district is a Hezbollah stronghold. It's where both Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, was killed in 2024, and his deputies. So this is where everything happened. And even during the 2024 war, where the war was at its peak, IDF never warned to clear the entire southern district of Beirut. This is the first of its kind, and people are panicking behind me. The streets are paralyzed because everyone is evacuating the neighborhood, and that has a toll on the traffic in Beirut.
That was Adel Marouki on the renewed hostilities between Israel and Lebanon. The UN Security Council has called a meeting on the ramifications of the growing global demand for energy and critical minerals. Mitch McCann has more.
As international competition intensifies over sourcing critical minerals, the UN's Under-Secretary General Rosemary DiCarlo highlighted the far-reaching impacts the competition can have on smaller mineral-rich nations, reminding larger powers of their responsibility to ensure these resources are managed responsibly.
The surge in demand for critical minerals is also fueling geopolitical competition and affecting global supply chains. Mining for these minerals has been linked to human rights abuses and environmental degradation. It's incumbent on both producing and consuming countries to enact governance and regulatory frameworks to manage these resources responsibly for the benefit of all.
Critical minerals are essential to nations because they are used to produce a wide range of products, including semiconductors, renewable energy technologies, the production of tech products such as smartphones, as well as batteries and oil refining processes. The UN Security Council has discussed the link between critical minerals, insecurity and conflict on previous occasions, including in-country focused meetings such as those on the Democratic Republic of the Congo. China holds a strong position in the global critical mineral supply chain, with the International Energy Agency reporting it refines between 47 and 87% of copper, lithium, cobalt, graphite and rare earths. China's permanent representative to the United Nations called for nations to respect each other's ownership over resources.
We must fully respect the sovereignty of all nations over their natural resources. In accordance with the principles of international law, each country exercises absolute sovereignty over the resources within its territory and bears primary responsibility for its governance. Certain countries should abandon outdated colonialist thinking, fully respect the development path and policy.
That was Mitch McCann reporting. Now it's 29 minutes past the hour, checking the forecast before the break. Beijing is down to -3 on Friday evening. Saturday will be cloudy with a high of 8. Shanghai will be overcast tonight, and then tomorrow with a low of 4 and a high of 11. Chongqing will see light rain tonight, and then tomorrow with a low of 14 and a high of 15. Nanchang will be cloudy with a low of 8 tonight, then overcast and 17 degrees Celsius. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, China expects its GDP to grow by over 6 trillion yuan this year as lawmakers gather in Beijing to review key priorities for the year ahead. Foreign observers at the two sessions speak highly of China's achievements over the past 5 years. Tian Lu with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers, from the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers, even the solid ground beneath our feet. And right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Ever wondered what's actually going on in Africa through the perspective of an African? How are things really going between China and Africa? What's the narrative of this relationship? Well, get a perspective with China-Africa Talk. Hear from African diplomats, entrepreneurs, academics, Chinese natives, and more. Get on our wavelength every week to find out what's real with China-Africa Talk. Find us on your favorite podcast. We'll see you there.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Tian Lu with you on this Friday. Still to come. In business, China's AI Plus plan aims to integrate artificial intelligence into all economic and social sectors by 2035. In sports, the Milano Cortina Winter Paralympics set to open in Italy. In culture and entertainment, Generation Z in China reinventing its intangible cultural heritage. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @cgtnradio. But first, checking today's headlines. Chinese President Xi Jinping has visited national political advisors attending a joint group meeting at the annual session of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. He joined the discussion and heard suggestions from political advisors of the Chinese Peasants and Workers' Democratic Party and the Zhou Society, and those from sectors including medicine and health, as well as welfare and social security. China says it expects its GDP to grow by over 6 trillion yuan, or nearly $870 this year. National Development and Reform Commission Chairman Zheng Shanjie said the expansion will provide solid support for employment, people's well-being, and risk prevention. The head of the country's top economic regulator also said by the end of the 15th five-year plan period in 2030, China's AI-related industries will be worth more than 10 trillion yuan, and the service sector is expected to exceed 100 trillion yuan during the period. Meanwhile, China will roll out updated policies for departure tax refunds this year. It is part of the efforts to promote the Shopping in China campaign. Commerce Minister Wang Wentao said the ministry will organize events and introduce policies. The minister also said China will promote the import of high-quality consumer services, including in medical and health care. He said the country will expand travel service exports and tap the export potential of services such as culture, traditional Chinese medicine, and catering. The Israeli military says it has begun a broad-scale wave of airstrikes against Iranian government infrastructure in Tehran. Earlier, Israel's military chief said that forces are moving to the next phase of their campaign against Iran. Meantime, Iranian Foreign Minister Said Abbas Araghchi said his country is not requesting a ceasefire with the United States and Israel. The Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council warned the United States against carrying out a ground invasion. Cuban authorities say a fifth person from a U.S.-registered speedboat has died after last week's incident in Cuban waters. The Interior Ministry said Thursday that Roberto Alvarez Avila died in hospital on March the 4th. He was among those injured when Cuban forces opened fire after the speedboat entered Cuban waters. Parts of Cuba remain without power following a massive blackout, which officials attribute to the island's fragile electric grid and ongoing fuel shortages. Crews are working to repair a broken boiler at a major thermoelectric plant, with full restoration expected in 3 or 4 days. While some parts of Havana regained power on Thursday, many areas are still without electricity. Petroleum shortages have worsened the energy crisis as U.S. actions in January halted key oil shipments from Venezuela. President Donald Trump's warning to impose tariffs on countries that supply oil to Cuba has added further strain to the situation. Japan has begun the 18th discharge of nuclear-contaminated water from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Tokyo Electric Power Company said the operation will release 7,800 tons of wastewater. The utility plans to discharge 62,400 tons in 8 rounds in fiscal 2026. Japan began dumping the water in August 2023, despite opposition from fishermen and the international community. U.S. President Donald Trump has fired Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem after a long-running series of controversies over immigration enforcement. Noem came under public scrutiny after 2 U.S. citizens were shot dead by federal officers in Minneapolis in January. Coming up in business, China's AI Plus plan aims to integrate artificial intelligence into all economic and social sectors by 2035.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
36 minutes past the hour, turning to business, here's Wang Zihang.
Thank you, Tianlu. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Friday. The Shanghai Composite was up around 0.4%. The Shenzhen Component gained nearly 0.6%. Chemical, raw material and planting shares were among the top gainers. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index increased over 1.7%. In Japan, the Nikkei edged up over 0.6%. Industry data shows that more than 700 of China's A-share companies achieved revenue growth last year. As of Thursday, more than 1,000 companies listed on the country's A-share market had issued their preliminary financial data for 2025. More than 470 companies saw yearly growth of net profit, accounting for nearly 46%. Around 420 firms realized growth in revenue and net profit, while the net profit of 76 companies increased more than 100%. China's AI Plus plan aims to integrate artificial intelligence into all economic and social sectors by 2035. The plan is the country's blueprint to implement AI domestically and make a mark on the international stage. 6 key initiatives were rolled out last year, with the science and technology industry leading the innovation. Sean Calebs has more.
What I'm looking at is confidence. China is always looking toward the future. It continues to have the foot on the accelerator in terms of enhancing economic conditions within this country, but that accelerator isn't a gas-powered vehicle, it's an electric vehicle. And so it's also continuing to move forward with its innovation as well. And that's some of the terms that we did hear out of this year's 2 sessions. And to me, it's also fascinating that China wants to continue to grow at a very strong, healthy pace, but in an environmentally sensitive fashion. China has become the world leader in many ways in terms of the environment. The single biggest takeaway is the fact that China wants to grow and do it in an environmentally sensitive fashion. Many countries want to do one or the other. They say, we want to improve our environment, but when they see the economy beginning to slack, they immediately pull away from what they view as safe, whether it be EVs or solar power or wind power, concerned that it's not going to grow and become profitable for the country, for businesses, whatever. But here it's not the case. I mean, they are committed. China is committed at the highest level to moving forward in that fashion. And to me, and I had a chance to see this up close and personal, we went to Shenzhen and Inner Mongolia. And I think anybody who'd been to those areas 15 to 20 years ago and now look at the way the mangroves It may not seem like a very sexy thing from an environment standpoint, but it's so important. A carbon sink. It pulls the harmful greenhouse gases out of the air and hangs onto them. And also a buffer for the punishing typhoons that come in and knock down the storm surge. In Inner Mongolia, they'll say, we've changed. It's no longer a dry desert area. And the community we were in, the provincial capital, they planted some 3 million trees over the past 20 years. And we saw a satellite photo, and you can't believe the difference. So that's what people need to know. But my one concern, I really want to point this out, a lot of people don't want to learn about China. I really firmly believe that. They want to believe it's back in the 1990s. They don't understand how much it's changed. And I tell people, wake up. This country is beyond almost all others in terms of technology. You go anywhere. The cashless society, the EVs, the windmills, the solar power. I mean, China is chugging along, and if people don't want to get on board and follow, they're going to be left behind.
That was Sean Caleb's reporting. Global manufacturing activity remained in expansion territory in February, with the sector showing modest improvement from the previous month. The Global Purchasing Managers' Index for the sector stood at 51.2, up 0.2 points from January. This marks the second month above the 50 threshold that separates expansion from contraction. Africa's manufacturing PMI continued to decline and remained below 50. The European manufacturing PMI climbed back above the 50 mark, while Asia's PMI rose to surpass 51. The Americas manufacturing PMI edged down slightly from the previous month, standing above 51. Experts say data from the first 2 months of the year show that signs of improving momentum in global manufacturing. Surging geopolitical risk in the Middle East is adding uncertainty to the fragile global economic recovery. China's annual electricity consumption has surpassed 10 trillion kilowatt hours for the first time in history. Heavy industry remains a major driver, but the demand mix is shifting. Greener energy and high-end manufacturing now take a larger share. Dai Kai-yi visited Jiangsu province to see how this transition is unfolding at a steel plant.
Electricity powers the modern economy. From the phones in our hands to the cars we charge, and the grids lighting up megacity skylines. And yet one of the biggest consumers is still heavy industry. And nowhere is that demand more visible than on the factory floor.
We're here at the heavy plate mill at the special steel plant. It turns out about 1.65 million tons a year and runs almost around the clock. We're here to find out exactly how much power is being used and where that power is now going.
Located in Jiangyin, eastern China's Jiangsu province, Xincheng Special Steel Works is one of the world's largest single-site producers of special steel, with the most complete product range in its sector.
In 2025, the company's total electricity consumption reached 3.5 billion kilowatt hours, up about 10% year-on-year. We're increasing the use of green power through direct purchases, rooftop solar, and energy storage systems.
A 10% rise in power use is no small feat amid current global conditions. Even more noteworthy, green electricity now accounts for over 10% of total consumption, and the share is steadily growing.
Green and low-carbon development is a core task for the special steel industry. Our steel for high-end wind power equipment now holds over 80% of the domestic market. In 2025, we developed 15 new key materials, including steel for aerospace fasteners. That marks an expansion from traditional products into aviation, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing.
The plant also generates its own electricity, using waste heat from production and recycled gases from blast furnaces and converters. The rest comes from the public grid. To see how the grid is handling demand, we visited a local substation in Jiangyin. Grid operators say more than 80% of the city's electricity consumption last year came from the secondary sector, highlighting the resilience of Jiangyin's industrial economy.
The power use structure is being upgraded. Electricity demand from traditional high-energy consumption industries is declining, while usage from high-tech industries and modern services continues to rise.
Liu adds that the pattern of one falling, one rising mirrors broader industrial restructuring across Jiangsu and the rest of China. Last year, China's electricity consumption surpassed 10 trillion kilowatt hours for the first time, more than double the United States and higher than the combined total of the European Union, Russia, India, and Japan. A milestone powered by more renewables and the electrification of industry. It reflects a rebalancing in how growth is generated.
There was Daikai in the eastern province of Jiangsu. Chinese companies emerged as a major highlight at the just concluded 2026 Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Huawei's base station products won the Best Mobile Network Infrastructure Award, while China Mobile and Huawei received the Best AI-Powered Network Solution Award for their AI Plus Network Operations project. China Telecom and Huawei were honored with the Best NTN Solution Award for their smartphone satellite connectivity technology. Chinese firms also won recognition for industry applications. A digital health assistant project by China Mobile, Huawei, and Ant Group won Best Mobile Innovation for Connected Health and Well-being and Best Use of Mobile for Accessibility and Inclusion. Chinese telecom operators also displayed advances in satellite communications, cloud network integration, and intelligent network operations. Startups such as Dr. Scrap gained recognition for using AI and data analytics to promote the circular economy in scrap recycling. Observers believe that as AI, 5G advanced, and satellite technologies converge, Chinese firms are set to play an increasingly important role in shaping the future of global telecommunications. And finally, Chinese automaker NIO has introduced its fully electric premium compact vehicle line under the Firefly brand in Thailand. In partnership with Chonburi Blue Sky, the launch featured the Firefly Smart City car designed for urban maneuverability with a rear-wheel drive layout and a tight turning radius. Chonburi says the company aims to elevate Thailand's electric vehicle industry by combining its extensive experience with NIO's future-focused ecosystem and global vision. It also says this collaboration will help build a solid foundation for sustainable growth and set new benchmarks for premium EVs in the country over the long term. NIO says it will be a driving force in the company's global growth, amplifying their presence in Asia. The debut marked Thailand as the second destination for Firefly in Southeast Asia after Singapore.
Thank you very much. And that was Wang Zihang with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, the Milano Cortina Winter Paralympics set to open in Italy.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
Now it's 47 minutes past the hour. Turning to sports, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Tianlu. The Milano Cortina Winter Paralympics will begin later on Friday with the opening ceremony at Verona Olympic Arena. A rehearsal involved a selection of dance and musical performances along with a light show above the stadium. The opening ceremony aims to be an immersive experience with contemporary languages and innovation displaying an inclusive Italy to the world. The games will run through March the 15th. Milano Cortina President Giovanni Malago says he's glad to see more public attention for the Paralympics.
I think our attention and arrangement for the Paralympics are the same as for the Olympics. All of our staff members are working hard for this event, and I am also happy to see so many people paying attention to the Paralympics with a large scale of participation. Everything is going smoothly at the moment, and the athletes will have a great experience.
Meanwhile, International Paralympic Committee President Andrew Parsons says a record 612 athletes from 56 national or regional committees have qualified for the Winter Paralympics. China has sent 167 members, including 70 athletes, to compete in 71 events across 6 sports, marking its largest delegation and the most extensive participation in an overseas Winter Paralympics. The inaugural wheelchair and curling mixed doubles event led early action at the Winter Paralympics. The debut edition featured 8 teams and China got past host nation Italy 8-7. China remains the only undefeated team in round-robin play. The team previously beat Japan and Latvia and will later face South Korea. Ning Zhongyan has returned to the ISU Speed Skating All-Round and Sprint World Championships in the Netherlands. Ning opened his title defense in the men's sprint with 2 fourth-place finishes. Rather than a single distance, skaters faced multiple races over 2 days in the test of speed, stamina, and consistency. The Chinese team consisted of 7 skaters, with Ning leading the charge. The 1500-meter Olympic champion contested a 4-race program made up of the 500 and 1000 meters, each run twice. In the opening 500, he was in the first pair from the outer lane and clocked in a time of 34.36 seconds, a new personal best over the distance, earning him a 4th-place finish. Home favourite Jenny de Boel thrilled the Dutch crowd with a blistering 33.78 to top the standings, while American star Jordan Stolz and Canadian veteran Laurent Dabril slotted into 2nd and 3rd. Attention then shifted to the first 1,000 meters. Ning drew the last pair and stopped the clock at 1 minute, 7.61 seconds, again only good enough for 4th place. When the points from both races were combined, Ning's consistency lifted him to 3rd in the overall sprint classification. De Boel led the pack with the Stolz in 2nd. China has advanced to the last 8 of the AFC Women's Asian Cup with a 3-0 win over Uzbekistan, its 2nd straight victory in Group B. Shao Ziqing broke the deadlock in the 30th minute with a penalty, followed by a brace from Li Qingtong. In the same group, North Korea also secured a quarter-final spot after a 5-0 win over Bangladesh. In Spanish football, Real Madrid and head coach Alvaro Arbeloa are facing a pivotal night from Friday when they travel to face Celta Vigo. They need a win to keep their title hopes alive and avoid a wave of criticism just days before the club's biggest match of the season in the Champions League against Man City. Monday's 1-0 defeat at home to Getafe left Madrid just 4 points behind Barcelona in the title race in La Liga, making victory in Vigo essential. Failure to take 3 points could allow Barcelona, which faces Athletic Club, to extend its lead to 6 or even 7 points. In tennis, 24-time Grand Slam winner Novak Djokovic says he sees no reason to retire because he's still motivated to compete. Speaking during the BNP Paribas Open 2026 in California, the 38-year-old said he remains capable of beating the best players in the world.
I've talked about this in the last couple of years, obviously, as I have received many more frequent questions about how long do I want to play for, what do I play for, etc. Of course, there are objectives and goals that are always there. You want to win, so you want to get another title and get another slam, hopefully, and I was close in Australia. That was an amazing start of the year for me, considering that I haven't been able to reach the finals since the Wimbledon 2024.
On the women's side, Yulia Putintseva picked up a straight sets win over Paulo Badosa to reach round 2. The Kazakh player finished the game in just over 80 minutes as she snapped a 10-match losing streak at 1,000 level events. She will next face Clara Tauson. After falling out of the top 100 for the first time in more than a decade at the start of the year, Putintseva has bounced back in 2026. The 31-year-old made it to the 4th round of the Australian Open to start this year's campaign.
Thank you very much. That was Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, Generation Z in China reinventing its intangible cultural heritage.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
Now it's 53 minutes past the hour, turning to culture and entertainment. Generation Z in China is giving a modern twist to the way people embrace intangible cultural heritage. From soda cans transformed into royal jewelry to dough figurines with a pop culture twist, these young creators are remixing traditions and the results are going viral. Shenli reports.
Take Yan Hong from Chengdu. She's the queen of trash to treasure, taking China chic to a whole new level. Her secret ingredient, used beverage cans. That's right. Yan transforms everyday junk, think cup noodle containers, pistachio shells, even pebbles from her fish pond, into stunning traditional Chinese jewelry and ornaments. She single-handedly recreated the headpieces and costumes from ancient dynasties, with her creation videos going viral online.
This series was inspired by the classic of mountains and seas. Many of the mythical creatures in our period dramas actually come from this ancient text.
Her work has become so intricate that she began studying filigree inlay, a national treasure of a craft that's over 1,000 years old, once reserved for royalty.
As a proud inheritor of filigree inlay, I want more people to know about our traditional culture. It's so versatile and timeless.
Meanwhile, in Beijing, Lang Jiaziyu proves you don't have to be self-taught to be a rule breaker. As the third-generation inheritor of the Lang family dough figurine art, a national heritage since 2008, he's injecting a centuries-old tradition with pop culture. His creations, which blend classic techniques with modern characters, have earned him hundreds of thousands of followers online.
Chinese and Western influences both shape our aesthetics today, under the influence of global trends. How do you make traditional art feel new? I believe the answer lies in fusion, combining Chinese and Western culture, tradition, and modernity.
This isn't just a trend, it's a career path. Social media platforms like Douyin are seeing a spike in Gen Z creators keeping traditions alive. Ancient traditions just get a fresh remix thanks to this wave of young creatives. Who knows, they might just be making tomorrow's classics today.
That was Shen Li reporting. Archaeologists in eastern China have uncovered 25 ancient sites along the Fenghua River in Ningbo dating back to the period before the Qing dynasty. The Ningbo Municipal Institute of Cultural Heritage Management says most of the sites contain remains from the late Hemudu culture, a prehistoric society known for its rice agriculture and distinctive stilt-style architecture. This discovery brings the total number of pre-Qing sites in the area to 71. Researchers say the newly identified sites are primarily lowland settlements, with 21 located on plains about 3 kilometers from the mountains. The sites mainly date to the late Hemudu and mid to late Liangzhu culture periods. Only a few contained artifacts from the spring and autumn or warring states periods. This discovery is part of a systematic survey of the Fenghua River Basin that began in 2022. Now it's 57 minutes past the hour, checking the forecast for the day. Beijing is down to -3 on Friday evening. Saturday will be cloudy with a high of 8. Shanghai will be overcast tonight, then tomorrow with a low of 4 and a high of 11. Chongqing will see light rain tonight, then tomorrow with a low of 14 and a high of 15. Nanchang will be cloudy with a low of 8 tonight, then overcast and 17 degrees Celsius. Lhasa will be cloudy tonight, then tomorrow with a low of -1 and a high of 19 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be overcast with a low of 19 and a high of 28. On Saturday, Vientiane will be cloudy tonight, then tomorrow with a low of 20 and a high of 31 degrees Celsius. That's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour Making News today. China expects its GDP to grow by over 6 trillion yuan this year as lawmakers gather in Beijing to review key priorities for the year ahead. On behalf of the staff, this is Tianlu in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the yellow river in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters? And what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river? And what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in the time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio.